Good morning, Virgo. I'm Anna. Before we go further, um, let me be straight with you. I'm not going to tell you that something magical is guaranteed to happen tonight at a specific time. That's not how energy works. But what I am going to tell you is that there's a convergence happening in your present moment that deserves your attention. Let's talk about what that actually means. Slow down, take a breath, actually take one, in through your nose, out through your mouth, because I need you grounded for what I'm about to tell you. I need you present. I need you in your body instead of spinning in your head. There's something happening in the energetic field around you right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not eventually, now. In this window of time you're currently occupying. And it's creating conditions, creating possibility, creating a kind of opening that doesn't exist all the time. Stay focused, because this isn't about a predetermined event that's going to happen whether you're aware of it or not. This isn't about the universe dropping something in your lap while you sleep. This is about you being in a specific state of receptivity, about circumstances being aligned in a particular way, about a window being open that's usually closed. And what happens in that window, that depends partly on forces outside your control and partly on how you show up in the next handful of hours. Can you feel it? That sense that something's different about this moment? Drop a comment if you already picking up on this energy, because here's what I'm actually tracking. There's a convergence, multiple threads of your life, multiple energies, multiple situations that have been developing separately. They're intersecting. They're coming to a point. They're reaching a moment of potential crystallization. And tonight, not literally tonight as in this specific evening, but tonight as in this immediate time frame, this present moment you're in represents a threshold, a point where things could shift, where clarity could arrive, where movement could occur that's been stalled, where communication could happen that's been pending. Not guaranteed, not promised, not cosmically ordained, regardless of what you do, but probable, available, within reach if you're paying attention. Does this feel true? Does this match the restlessness you've been experiencing? Let me know in the comments, because let me get more specific about what kind of convergence I'm sensing. For some of you, this is about communication. Someone's been building toward reaching out, building courage, building clarity, building past their own resistance, and they're close to the point where not communicating becomes more uncomfortable than communicating, close to breaking their own silence. And tonight, there's a high probability they make contact. Send the message, make the call, show up in some form, not because tonight is magically significant, but because they've been approaching this point and they're reaching it now in this time frame, in this window. For others of you, this is about internal breakthrough. You've been processing something, working through something, trying to make sense of something that hasn't made sense, and you're close to the point where the pieces click, where the pattern becomes visible, where understanding arrives. And tonight, there's a strong possibility that clarity lands, that you suddenly see what you've been missing, that the confusion resolves into comprehension. For others, still, this is about external opportunity, something you've been waiting for, working toward, hoping would materialize, and the conditions are aligning, the circumstances are coming together, the elements that need to be in place are moving into position, And tonight, there's a real chance that the opportunity presents itself, that the door opens, that what's been theoretical becomes tangible. Which scenario resonates most? Or is it something else entirely? Comment below and let me know, because here's what you need to understand about why this particular time frame matters. It's not about astrology, it's not about numerology, it's not about some universal significance of this specific date. It's about where you are in your personal cycle, about the accumulation of your own choices and energy over the past period of time, reaching a point of potential manifestation. You've been putting energy into things, making choices, taking actions, building momentum even when results weren't immediately visible. And that accumulation, it creates pressure. It builds toward points of release. It reaches thresholds where the internal becomes external. And you're at one of those thresholds now. You've been building toward this without necessarily recognizing it as a specific point of convergence. But it's a moment where the energy you've been investing could translate into visible outcome, where the work you've been doing could produce tangible result, not as reward, not as cosmic payback, but as natural consequence of sustained effort meeting aligned conditions. Have you been feeling this building pressure? Let me know in the comments, because I want to talk about what prepare yourself actually means in this context. It doesn't mean brace for impact. It doesn't mean go into protection mode. It doesn't mean steel yourself against potential harm. It means get present, get grounded, get clear about what you actually want, so that if opportunity presents itself, you can recognize it and respond consciously. Because here's what often happens at these convergence points. The thing shows up, but we miss it because we're distracted. The communication comes, but we're not in the right headspace to receive it properly. The opportunity appears, but we're too caught up in our own noise to notice it. So preparing yourself means clearing the noise, creating internal space, getting quiet enough to actually hear if something's trying to reach you. It means being present instead of numbing, being available instead of shut down, being receptive instead of defended. It means checking in with yourself about what you're actually hoping for, what you're actually ready for, what you're actually willing to engage with if it appears. Because if you're unclear, if you're reactive, if you're operating on autopilot, you might miss what's available. Or you might engage with it from old patterns instead of current clarity. Does this make sense? Does this feel like useful guidance? Drop a comment if this is landing. Because here's what else I'm sensing about this time frame. There's a quality of unexpectedness to what might occur. A sense that it's not going to unfold exactly how you've been imagining it would. If communication comes, it might be from a direction you weren't watching. If clarity arrives, it might reveal something you weren't expecting to see. If opportunity presents itself, it might look different than your mental picture. And that's actually good. That's actually part of why this moment has potency. Because when things unfold according to our expectations, we often bring our habitual responses to them. We engage from pattern instead of presence. But when things surprise us, when they arrive in forms we didn't anticipate, when they catch us slightly off guard, we're more likely to respond freshly, more likely to be actually present instead of running our usual programming. So if something does happen tonight, if this Convergence does produce visible outcome. Don't dismiss it just because it doesn't match your expectations. Don't overlook it just because it's not packaged the way you imagined. Stay open, stay curious, stay willing to engage with what actually shows up instead of only recognizing what you thought you were looking for. Have you been too rigid in your expectations? Let me know in the comments, because I want to address what might be happening in your body right now as you hear all this. You might feel activated, anxious, that jittery energy of not knowing what's coming but sensing something is. And that's normal. That's your nervous system responding to uncertainty, to the gap between current state and potential next state. But I need you to work with that energy instead of letting it work against you. Because anxiety and excitement are physiologically similar. They both create arousal in the nervous system. The difference is how we interpret that arousal. If you interpret it as threat, it becomes anxiety. If you interpret it as possibility, it becomes excitement. So when you notice that activated feeling, when you feel that restless energy, name it differently. Instead of, I'm anxious about what might happen, try, I'm energized by what's possible. Instead of, I'm scared of being disappointed, try, I'm available for surprise. Instead of, what if nothing happens, try, I'm present with what is while staying open to what could be. Small shifts in how you frame the experience, they create different internal states, different capacities for receiving. Can you make that shift? Can you work with the energy instead of fighting it? Comment below if you're willing to try this. Because here's what I really want you to understand. Tonight, this window, this threshold, this point of convergence, it's not about forcing anything to happen. It's not about making something occur through sheer will. It's about being available, being present, being receptive to what wants to move. Because some things can't be forced. Some things only happen when you create space for them, when you stop gripping so tightly that nothing can shift. So your job isn't to make tonight significant. Your job is to be present enough to notice if it becomes significant on its own, to pay attention, to stay aware, to recognize moments of potential even when they're quiet or subtle or unexpected. Because sometimes the most important shifts don't announce themselves with trumpets. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they slip in sideways. Sometimes they show up so quietly you could miss them if you're not paying attention. So pay attention, not obsessively, not anxiously scanning for signs, but with calm, grounded awareness. Notice who reaches out. Notice what thoughts surface. Notice what becomes clear. Notice what opportunities present themselves. And when you notice, respond consciously from presence, from your current clarity instead of old patterns. That's how you work with convergence points. That's how you participate in threshold moments, not by forcing, but by being aware enough to engage when engagement is called for. Does this feel like something you can do? Let me know in the comments, because I also want to prepare you for the possibility that nothing dramatic happens, that you go through tonight and it feels like any other night, that no big communication comes, that no sudden clarity arrives, that no obvious opportunity presents itself. And if that's what occurs, it doesn't mean this reading was wrong. It doesn't mean that convergence isn't real. It might mean the shift is happening internally in ways that aren't immediately visible. It might mean the seeds are being planted that won't sprout until later. It might mean you're being prepared for something that manifests in the coming days rather than the coming hours. Energy doesn't always move on our preferred timeline. Convergence doesn't always produce immediate visible result. Sometimes the most significant shifts happen so subtly we don't recognize them until we look back and see that yes, that was the turning point, even though it didn't feel dramatic at the time. So if tonight feels ordinary, if nothing obvious occurs, don't conclude that nothing happened. Stay aware in the days that follow. Notice what unfolds. Track whether clarity or communication or opportunity shows up in the immediate aftermath, even if not in the exact moment, because convergence creates conditions. And sometimes those conditions take a moment to translate into visible outcome. Can you hold that perspective? Can you stay open even if results aren't immediate? Drop a comment if you can commit to that. Because here's my final piece of guidance for you. Whatever happens tonight, whatever does or doesn't occur in this window of time, use it as information about where you are, about what you're ready for, about what you're creating through your sustained energy and choices. If something significant happens, receive it as validation that you're on track, that your efforts matter, that the energy you've been investing is translating into manifestation. If nothing obvious happens, receive it as invitation to keep building, to stay consistent, to trust that convergence points aren't always immediately visible, but that doesn't mean they're not real. Either way, you're exactly where you need to be. You're in the process. You're moving toward what's meant for you. And this moment, this threshold, this point of potential, it's just one point on a longer journey. Important, yes. Potentially significant, yes, but not the only moment that matters. So be present with it, be available to it, be willing to engage with whatever shows up, but also remember you're building something bigger than any single moment. You're creating a life, you're evolving, you're becoming, and that process doesn't hinge on one night. It unfolds over time through your sustained choices and presence. So yes, pay attention tonight. Yes, be aware. Yes, stay open. But also trust the larger process. Trust your own development. Trust that you're being guided toward what's actually aligned, even when the path isn't obvious. You're ready for whatever comes, for whatever doesn't come, for whatever this convergence produces or doesn't produce. You're ready because you've been building readiness. And that work, it doesn't disappear if tonight feels ordinary. It's still there, still real, still creating the foundation for what's next. So breathe, stay present, stay open, and let's see what unfolds. I don't sell futures, I build architects. No predictions, just the raw truth for the tough ones. Stay magic, stay in the now.